All right, let's dive into a philosophical puzzle that starts with a really simple question, but believe me, it ends up challenging the very fabric of reality itself. It all kicks off with this.
You've heard this one before, right? It's a classic. But have you ever really stopped to think about what it would mean if the answer is a hard no? Not just for snowflakes, but for everything in the entire universe.
Because for one brilliant thinker, this wasn't just a fun little riddle. No, the answer, he believed, pointed to a fundamental law of nature, a core rule about how our universe is built from the ground up, dictating what can and cannot exist.
And that brings us to the man himself, Gottfried Leibniz. He looked at the world and came to a pretty wild conclusion. He proposed a universe that, quite simply, doesn't allow for any duplicates at all.
This is his big idea, and it's called the principle of the identity of indiscernibles. It sounds complicated, but the logic is actually super elegant. It basically says, look, if you have two things, and you go through every single one of their properties, their size, shape, color, history, everything, and you can't find a single difference, then you don't actually have two things. You have one.
The implication of this is just huge. I mean, think about it. Leibniz is arguing that the universe has a strict no-copies policy. Every single object, from a tiny grain of sand to the biggest galaxy, has to have at least one unique property that sets it apart from everything else in existence.
Now, you can't just drop an idea like that without making some serious waves. For the world of philosophy, this wasn't just a new theory, it was like a complete metaphysical makeover. It was all about redefining reality itself.
And that's not me exaggerating. Our sources say that this principle, along with his others, gave the entire field of metaphysics a new look. It was a fresh and honestly a radically simple new way of thinking about the world and what it even means for something to be something.
So what was the big problem Leibniz was trying to solve? Well, it's an old one, called the problem of individuation. Basically, what makes you, you? What makes any single thing its own unique self? Leibniz's answer was that its unique set of properties is what does the job. This became the foundation for his whole vision of the cosmos, which he saw as a universe made of monads, these fundamental, unique little building blocks of reality.
But of course, an idea this revolutionary wasn't going to go unchallenged. And this one sparked a legendary philosophical showdown, all thanks to a really clever counterargument from a guy named Samuel Clarke.
So here's the philosophical ring. In one corner, you've got Leibniz saying perfect copies are absolutely impossible. And in the other corner, you have Clarke, who comes back with this killer thought experiment. He says, okay, what if God, being all-powerful, just decided to create two particles that were perfectly, absolutely identical? Clarke argued that if you swapped their places, it would make zero difference to the universe.
Okay, let's walk through Clarke's elegant attack here. Picture it, a totally empty universe, nothing in it. Then, poof, God creates two particles. They are perfect clones of each other in every single way. Now, if you swap them, has anything really changed? Clarke's answer is a big fat no. And if nothing has changed, that means there was no sufficient reason for one to be in spot A and the other in spot B to begin with, which is a direct shot at another one of Leibniz's core principles. It's a really clever jab.
This was truly a heavyweight intellectual fight. You had two of the sharpest minds of the time going head-to-head. But you know what? It didn't end with a clean knockout. It remains one of philosophy's great unresolved clashes. Yeah, the history books are pretty clear on this one. The debate just kind of fizzled out. No definitive winner was ever declared. And honestly, that's such a great reminder of what philosophy's all about. Sometimes the questions you ask and the debate itself are way more important than finding a simple answer.
So, what happened after the dust settled? Well, the debate started getting more and more theological. Clarke even tried to shift the goalposts and make it a problem about language instead of, the nature of reality. But even without a clear winner, this whole controversy left a huge mark. It completely shaped how future generations of philosophers would even begin to think about the problem of identity.
But hold on, don't count Leibniz and his principle out just yet, because despite Clarke's brilliant challenge, this story isn't quite over. As it turns out, the principle has a pretty amazing and enduring legacy.
And here is the twist in the tale. The sources tell us that eventually a new path was found, a way to save Leibniz's principle and preserve it in its unlimited abstract generality. So, how did they do it? What was the secret? It all comes down to how you define the word property.
See, if you expand the definition to include not just an object's internal qualities, like its mass or charge, but also its relational ones, well, then the principle works perfectly. Think about it. Clarke's two identical particles might be perfect internal clones, but they can't both be in the exact same spot at the exact same time. That unique position in space-time becomes their distinguishing property. Boom, problem solved.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. From a simple question about snowflakes, we end up with this profound idea that the universe, at a fundamental level, is made of unique individuals, that nothing can ever be perfectly copied. Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If every single thing in existence is verifiably, undeniably unique, what does that say about you?